This is episode number 83, How to Stop Eating Emotionally with Sarah Sims. Welcome everybody to another episode here at Body and Mind Transformation by Custom Body Fitness. This is your health coach, Sandro Torres, and today, Sarah Sims, one of our trainers, is going to share with you a talk about how to stop eating emotionally. She noticed that she used to eat emotionally and she changed that pattern by applying a tip that she's going to give you. She is going to share with you the different emotions that make you eat and the tricks and other things that you can do to stop eating emotionally that she put into practice, but she's gonna show you the way that she learned to actually stop eating emotionally. So it's a great talk. I think it's entertaining. Plus, she tells you a little bit about her health and issues that she has to overcome with that emotional eating. So please listen to this talk. You'll gain a lot of information, and you'll see that not only besides be able to stop eating emotionally, you also are going to be able to help your thyroid if you suffer from any of these issues such as Hashimoto's or low thyroid problems, hypothyroid, because she is dealing with that, but she also did a couple of things that is helping her to take care of that issue as well. So without further introduction, let's listen to the talk. At CBF, we know that for you to change your body, you need to change your mind. Exercise and eating healthy is only part of the plan. We care about our members as we care about our family, because our members become our family. It is not about competition, but support. It is not about being the strongest or the fastest, but about you defeating your negative self. It is about working together and making the task challenging and have fun. By the end, what matters is not how hard the session was, but that you take control of your mind so you can take control of your body. My name is Sandro Torres, and I'm happy you are part of our family. Welcome to Custom Body Fitness.
Hello everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm a trainer at Custom Body Fitness I think I know everyone, almost everyone here. And tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about emotional eating and some ways to maybe control your emotional eating. So we've all been there, we've all eaten emotionally, whether it's when you're stressed out, you're sad, you're bored, you're out with friends. Those are all these emotions that come up inside of us and cause us to sometimes eat things we shouldn't eat or eat a little more than we shouldn't eat. So I could stand here tonight and talk to you about a bunch of different ways that I think might help when you find yourself in a situation of emotional eating. For example, I've done a lot of these, but I actually Googled some of them the other night, and one of them that I found was to pamper yourself. And it said to wear soft, comfortable clothes, take bubble baths, and read a book with some hot tea. And I thought that's really, really great if we all stayed at home all day and had nothing else to do but wait to want to eat emotionally, and then we could just hop in the bubble bath, right? That's just not realistic. Most of us are on the go, out and about, we work. I mean, how do you think your boss would feel if you walked in and you're like, I really don't feel like emotionally eating right now, I gotta go home and take a bath? I don't think that they would be thrilled. The second one was create a hunger scale. And I kind of looked at this and I thought, yeah, that's really cool. Like, you can rate how hungry you are on a scale of 1 to 10. But then I thought, just from my own experience, I could be starving but emotional at the same time. And yeah, I'm hungry enough to eat, but that doesn't mean I'm going to choose the right foods to eat, right? So I kind of looked at the hunger scale like, yeah, that's a good way to kind of gauge how hungry you are, but it doesn't really help you with what you should be eating. And then the other one was keep a food journal. And I think this one is really good for awareness, and I think it kind of helps you hold yourself accountable to the things that you might be eating, but who wants to write down all the food that they're eating all day, every day for the rest of their lives? I don't know how sustainable that one is either. The next one was, and I've actually really done this one, you guys. I wore a rubber band around my wrist, and every time I wanted to eat something that I wasn't supposed to eat, I'd snap the rubber band, right? And that lasted about a day because I got tired of snapping my wrist. And then this one I actually do as well, and I still do it, and it's somewhat helpful, but it's not the real reason that I'm able to control my eating most of the time, is especially with donuts. I loved donuts, and cake. I love cake so much. But if you actually smell it, it kind of gives you the sensation of tasting it, right? Because smell and taste really go hand in hand. So whenever we get a box of donuts, I'm like, oh my gosh, just let me smell it. And I smell it, and I actually feel a little bit fulfilled. But I don't eat it. But that's not the real reason I don't eat it, which is what I'll get into. So for people who are able to eat that kind of food, I think smelling it might make it even a little more tempting in a lot of ways. And the other one was play with your dog. And I thought that one was really neat. Like, yeah, you could take your dog on a walk, but also I have been known to share a bag of potato chips with my dog. So that can get you into trouble as well. So those were some of the things that I saw, and yeah, they might work for a period of time, but are they really going to yield lasting results as far as emotional eating goes? And in my opinion, I don't think so. So what are the 6 primary emotions? There's anger, there's disgust, there's fear, happiness, sadness, and surprise. So out of those 6 emotions, what do you think is the strongest emotion? Anyone have any ideas? What was that, Jill? Fear. Fear. Fear trumps all those emotions. You can ask any marketing executive you know, and they'll say that fear is the best form of advertising. It reaches the most people. And a lot of times I think we look at fear as a negative emotion. Like it's something that we shouldn't allow ourselves to fear or feel a lot of times. And I think there's a way to look at fear constructively and actually use it in a way that will help you look at the food that you eat in a different light. So let me tell you my story. About 10 years ago, so 11 years ago now, because I'm 29, I was 18 years old, and I was at my mom's house, and she kind of looked at me and, inspecting me, if you will, the way mothers do. And she noticed that I had a big lump in my neck. And she was like, and it was about the size of a baseball at that time. And I had kind of noticed it, and I didn't really think anything about it. And she was like, I think you need to go and get that checked out. And so I went to the doctor, and he immediately looked at it, and he was like, it's your thyroid at 18 years old. And at first he thought it might be thyroid cancer. And so I had an ultrasound done, and it turns out it was just really inflamed, really big thyroid. And then I had some blood work done. And my blood work came back, and it was the most impressive numbers my doctor had ever seen in the form of hypothyroidism. So he told me that he was going to give me medication, and I would be on this medication the rest of my life, and that it was going to get progressively worse. And I didn't really have any options at that point. And to me, my mindset was a lot different back then, whereas I was like, okay, I have this diagnosis. Poor me. There's not really anything I can do about it according to my doctor. So I'm just going to take this medication and continue with all the symptoms I was having, like acne, weight gain, hair loss, moodiness, exhaustion, brain fog. And I spent the vast majority of my early 20s this way. And I never once thought that my lifestyle could be the reason for this diagnosis and could be contributing to the worsening of this diagnosis. And I don't know if you remember last week, I told you that I came to Custom Body Fitness about 25 to 30 pounds overweight. And I think that this was a contributor, not only the diagnosis, but the lifestyle that I was leading. And that's when I met Sandro. And Sandro has talked to you guys a lot about challenging your beliefs and changing your mindset. And that's exactly what he did. When I sat down with him, he was like, well, have you ever thought about trying to get off thyroid medication? Have you ever thought about finding a different way? And at first I was really resistant. And I was like, there's no way. The doctor said this is how it is, and that's final. Well, if you know Sandro, he's very persistent. And he continued to encourage me to find alternative ways to improve my health. And so little by little, my mindset about this started to change. And I realized that when you accept something the way that it is, essentially you're giving up. You're giving up on yourself. You're giving up on the people who love you. And when I made that realization, I decided that I wasn't going to roll over and allow myself to feel this way for the rest of my life. So I started doing some digging, and it was a really slow process because, as you all know, there's a lot of contradictory information out there. And finally, I found a chiropractor in Wisconsin, and I started working with him. And through food allergy testing, we were able to find the reactive foods in my body that were actually causing the underlying condition that I didn't know that I had, which is autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, autoimmune of the thyroid, that was actually causing the attack on my thyroid. So my thyroid's being attacked, the tissue is being eaten, and your thyroid's not functioning, and you're not producing the hormone, right? That's why they give you synthetic hormone. And so I started working with him, and through the use of the food allergy testing, I started feeling a lot better. And since then, I am on half of the thyroid medication that I was on before. Granted, it hasn't been easy. I have 35 food allergies, and that includes dairy, soy, gluten, corn, spinach, sweet potato, all of these different things. So when people tell me it's just too difficult to give something up, I know that that's not true, because I've given up a lot of things. And I know that when your health is important enough, when you make it a priority, then you're willing to do whatever it is. You make those sacrifices. And so that kind of brings me back to my point of emotions. I think you were probably all hoping that I would stand up here and tell you all of those little tricks that you can just implement into your life and not emotionally eat. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can use one emotion that is going to trump all other emotions, and that is fear. And allowing yourself to live in fear every day and using it as a positive emotion as opposed to a negative emotion, you can really drive yourself to make the right choices. For example, I live in fear every day that if I don't make the right food choices, what is my future going to look like? Is it going to look like thyroid cancer? Is it going to look like medication for the rest of my life? And that really hits home for me. So when you think about it for yourself, maybe you have a condition. Maybe you know someone who has a condition. If you look at the statistics, I know Dr. Feinsinger has touched on it a little bit before, but 30.3 million people in the United States have diabetes. 50 million people have some form of autoimmune disease like I have. 38.5% will be diagnosed with cancer, and nearly half the population, 47%, heart disease. So I think that there's a reason for us all to be a little bit scared when it comes to our lifestyle and making the food choices. And I know also that you probably think that this seminar is about weight loss, and you're wondering why I'm up here talking about disease prevention and disease management. But it kind of goes hand in hand, because a lot of times the weight gain that comes from the choices that we make is what causes the disease, right? So if we can allow ourselves to resonate with those emotions now, whether we have a condition that we can focus on, or whether we know someone, or whether we just don't want to have to deal with that, or we don't want our children to have to deal with that, then I think that's the best way. Because if I know all of you have been scared at some point in here, and it's really hard to feel anything else when you're feeling that emotion of fear. And I can tell you that I've struggled with my weight my entire life, and it's always been really superficial for me. I always wanted to look good until I found this out, and this is the only thing that has really made it sustainable. And I know this works because I've lived it. I've literally been at Vitamin Cottage buying ice cream and potato chips and watching it come up the conveyor belt and telling myself, Sarah, you want to lose that 5 pounds. Sarah, you want to look good in your bikini. Sarah, blah, blah, blah. And then the only thing, when it crosses my mind, that flips the switch is, Sarah, your thyroid, do you want to be on medication the rest of your life? That's the only thing. And I remember I looked at the cashier, I was like, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to return these items. If you can give me just a minute. And I went and I put them back on the shelf. And it sounds a little wonky, but I think it works. And we all live in fear of some kind. And then there's the flip side of that, the fear of losing friends when you make all these changes, the fear of not being able to eat your favorite foods, the fear of being made fun of, which people make fun of me for my food restrictions. But it doesn't matter because I know what I want, and that makes it worth it. So I guess my point is, we all live in some kind of fear. You have to decide which kind of fear you want to live in. The fear that's going to bring a positive impact to your life, or the fear that's going to bring a negative impact to your life. Any questions?
Okay, everybody, so there you have the talk. I'm gonna give you the points that I got that I think are important. Of course, there is more points that I might be missing, but here's what I think is important. First, years before, a shake, a milkshake, a soda, a candy, whatever it was a treat. It wasn't so prevalent like right now it is. Right now we drink soda all the time, we drink milkshakes all the time, we eat sugar all the time. Before it wasn't that way. So times have changed and now has become part of our diet. Another thing is that there is a lot of toxins not only in our water, also in our food, and that our food are nutrients dense, are depleted. We don't have enough nutrients in those foods because the way they grow, the way they transport this food. The next thing is that our body don't absorb the vitamins from supplement because simply doesn't recognize the vitamins. The way the vitamins become in whole foods is completely different than it comes in a supplement. So you're wasting your money, you're putting your health in risk, and you're not getting the nutrients that you're supposed to get. The next thing is toxin do contribute to your weight gain because your body, your cells, your fat cells store those toxins on the cells, and it's difficult to get rid of those fat cells because they're storing, of course, those toxins. So those are the points that I think are very important that you should keep in mind. I learned a lot from this lady. Hopefully you did too. If you like this, please share it with other people. Please share it with people who needs to listen to this and understand that they need to cleanse their body and take precautions to eat the right foods and stop eating toxic food and sugar. Thank you so much for continuing following us. Please stay mentally and physically healthy and close to God, and I'll be tuning in the next episode.